welcome back to the MR3 Experience one-on-one. Here we have my good friend, Dina. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you here. How you doing today, man?
Good, Michael. I really feel fortunate that you invited me, and I've seen your YouTubes, and I think they're really informational, and I enjoy watching them. So I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I appreciate those kind of words, man. You know, I don't have any major big objective with my YouTube channel other than try to educate, our viewers, the community, and bring in, I think, others in my life that have inspired me in the sport of triathlon, and you're definitely one of them. And as you can see, we're all decked out here in super cool bike shop gear, and we'll kind of get into why that is. My decor is all super cool here, so we're excited to talk about the super cool racing team, and we'll kind of get into the details there a little bit further. But first off, I wanted to kind of introduce you. Professionally, I understand you're a doctor of family medicine, and kind of wanted to ask a few questions about your sporting experience and athletic experience. So if you could share with us a little bit about your background, and your introductory to the sport of triathlon.
Yeah. As far as athletics, I would say probably the first sport that I did would be related to triathlon would be swimming in high school and Division 3 and Division 2 college swimming.
Where did you swim at?
Binghamton University, it's a state university in New York.
Okay, nice. Did you
Yeah, it
swim
was.
outside or inside?
Yeah, indoors. We actually came to Florida to winter train. So this is way before I moved to Florida. But yeah, we would come down here for winter training and swim long course, which I'd never swam before in New York. So
Sure, sure. Oh, that's
so
awesome. Did you have an event that you specialized in?
yeah, 200 breaststroke, which again has nothing to do with triathlon really. Unless maybe, I mean, I get a few breaststrokes in sometimes around the buoy if there's a lot of traffic, but otherwise, I was
Right.
not a freestyler.
Yeah.
Definitely not a distance freestyler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really,
Yeah.
and I mean, I did some running, just really for leisure. I never raced like 5Ks, half marathons, anything when I was really until I was a resident in a family medicine resident, which was around like my first competitive race outside of like college swimming was maybe around 2008, 2009. I did a 5K and actually in Gainesville, and it
Nice.
was really cool. I mean, I liked it a lot,
Yeah.
um, but I just did one, and that was it. And I would swim for fitness, like a couple times a week. I grew up surfing on Long Island,
Yeah.
so I feel very confident in the open water, especially
Nice.
in big surf and pretty
Right.
much, yeah, I mean, I was a lifeguard. We were training like, rowing boats in the ocean, using kayaks, using longboards. So I mean, I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah. With the movement of the ocean, and yeah, it's a different feel. Like I grew up surfing on the water a little bit, boating, you know, just being around the elements out there. Um, Swimming in a wetsuit, I guess, was familiar to you. I think that's actually something that a lot of folks that maybe are newer to the sport actually have to tackle because, having your chest kind of under compression a little bit can
Cold water.
cold
Yeah.
water, all that. Yeah, swimming in Manhattan, I can only imagine how cold that is. I assume, did you have like the neoprene hat and air covers and booties?
Yeah, I was like Thanksgiving. I would stop surfing in Thanksgiving because the water would be like under 50, and that was I would
Oh,
wear
wow.
like a 4.3 with like cap, booties, gloves, but I wasn't gonna put on a 5 mil and surf in the snow. So I would stop from Thanksgiving until like
Wow.
Easter.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I did that one 5K, and then my my brother-in-law was doing triathlons, like sprint triathlons, but he invited me, and I didn't even have a bike. So I bought my first bicycle, um, which a road bike in 2015, and I started cycling with him. And he invited me to this triathlon. It got canceled due to low participation, and I had been training, and I was like, I'm just gonna do one. So I registered for that one of the DRC sprint races when it used to be at the beach there.
At
And
the which one? The and
Fernandina.
Oh,
Was it?
Fernandina. Yep.
Back in before it was in Jacksonville. It used to be in
Yeah.
like
I did one of the races there. I think it was I did an Olympic there and I think and a sprint. I think a couple different years out there. And it was a pretty good event. The traffic was a little crazy. I do recall that. But ocean swim and pretty hot run.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was, it was exhilarating.
Yeah.
And I finished fifth, and I was like, are you kidding? I mean, I've never done this before. That was when they used to have the 1 to 5 on the podium there, the DRC events.
Yeah. So that
And
was
then I
your
just wanted to do them.
that was your first race. You
That was
actually
my first race. Yeah.
that actually wasn't
Yeah.
canceled.
Right.
Okay. So you finished fifth overall, or is that
Fifth
your
in my age group.
age group? Nice. And now
Yeah.
not to bring age into this, but I think it's important to note. I mean, you're in I would say the masters category, correct?
Yeah, I'm 42. So yeah, when I started though, I was 30. I was in my late 30s.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I'm in the 40
Yeah.
and over.
It's important for me to hit on that because I do look up. I mean, I'm 33, so but I do look up to I think some of these masters, age group runners, especially when I was running, I was training with some of the guys that were in their 40s, maybe in their 50s, that were just cranking out 16 something 5Ks or sub 5 miles, and I'm like, man, I want to be like them when I'm 50, and I just want to say that inspires me, just as a younger athlete, and always has. So, hats off to you for really being, continuing into the sport. And at a high level as well. You kind of answered my first question. I was going to ask you to share your first race experience with me. I would like for you to maybe not expand on that, but to share maybe your best or most, maybe your favorite race experience.
My favorite race experience. It would have to be actually one of the more recent races, the St. George World Championships, that 70.3.
We had quite a few super cool racing team.
Yeah, we were all kitted out. Yeah, wasn't that great?
Yeah, these jerseys, to be honest, are like definitely some of my favorite. I mean, you don't see polka dot on the triathlon scene much. I mean, it's kind of known as the king of the mountain jersey in the cycling world. We train here kind of in flat Florida, so it's kind of like maybe not a misnomer, but ironic. But we have some solid athletes here, and Gainesville, Florida has I would say in terms of hill training, decent hills to train on, but we have to be a little more strategic in how we train for the mountain stages for sure. So
it definitely gets you. I was gonna say it definitely gets you a lot of recognition on like race courses by people all over. I mean, it's an attractive kit.
Yeah, no, it's solid. I know you had a lot to do with the design of that and making sure it looks sharp and picking out the right materials and kits for our team. And we derailed a little bit from the St. George experience, but tell me a little bit about that race and how that went for you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that it's hard to say that I didn't have a lot of expectations going into a world championship. I mean, I qualified with a second at Gulf Coast, which I was like totally blown away.
Yeah, you had a great race at Gulf Coast, which I raced that day too, and also at St. George with you. But that day in Panama City was pretty special too.
So I didn't really know what to expect with the World Championship. So there's a lot of elevation on the cycling course and the running course. So it's like, you're kind of like, well, am I going to have a time goal, or am I going to have an overall finish goal? Like, what's my goal going to be? And like one of my goals for pretty much all my races, is to just try to execute the best race I can execute on that day. If I do that, even if something happens bizarre, like,
Yeah.
like one time I totally hyperventilated on the swim, which for me, growing up swimming, I mean, I was plopped in the ocean by myself at, 15. As soon as I could drive my car, I would just drive to the ocean and surf. So, I mean, things happen, and they're bizarre, but if you can overcome them, even if you don't,
Yeah.
get the place you wanted or the time you wanted, if you just executed the best race you could for that day, that's really all I feel like I can ask of myself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that day was sort of like, that was sort of like the essence of like everyone's race because of this
Right.
storm front that came in.
Yeah. It
So I
was,
would say, I mean, everybody can identify, like, where were you on the course when it happened? I was swimming, I was in transition, I was wherever. So everybody defines
bumping
that
down
race by
Snow
that.
Canyon into hill. Yeah, I think that's where you were at, right? You were in Snow Canyon.
I had just crested the top of Snow Canyon when that hailstorm started. So I had been looking forward to the descent, like, up
Yeah.
until that point.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of like you're running to the finish line, like almost a victory lap, like you're finished with, because that's the end of the course. And yeah, I was actually heading towards Snow Canyon, which was like the most, I guess, amount of elevation gain for the most part, I guess. But on the back end of that course, you still had a lot of significant elevation. You had Snow Canyon. But I remember I was like, I don't want to be going down Snow Canyon with hail right now.
so that's what
Wow.
my little group did. There's about 10 of us. And I was just like, if I don't bomb this hill, the other people in my age group, wherever they are, in front of me, behind me, I'm going to lose, like, who knows, like 5, 10, 15 minutes. So I just made a decision. And I mean, the first mile, I couldn't even, the wind was so hard that I couldn't only see, probably, I don't know how far, maybe 15 or 20 yards. And the wind
Yeah.
was so hard, I was just trying to keep the bike on the road. But after about a mile, the wind lightened up. And I just was like, you know what? I just made a choice. I'm just going to bomb this. So
It
I
was
topped
really,
out at like 52 in that on that road. And
yeah.
I mean, I described it to my coaches. I said, I don't know if this was this, if I don't know if it was stupidity, if it was guts, or if it was just pure luck, or some combination of the three. But I survived that descent, and I caught a bunch of people. So
It was definitely a combination of the three. There were so many moments I was in this. I mean, all of us were in that same boat that that raced on that day, just making taking risks, making decisions to hold back maybe a little bit, which um, that's kind of what I ended up doing. I wasn't having a great day on the bike. I was maybe halfway through before that storm really started to hit. And for me, it was just about take it all in, and then and then it was like, okay, not just take it all in, let's survive this race, which had its fair share of challenges. And there was a difficult run at the end, which I could have prepared for more because it was pretty much elevation straight up and a very quick descent down, but it was almost basically an ascent for the entire half marathon portion of that race. And that's kind of my forte, is the run. The bike's coming for me, but or coming along for me, but that run was very difficult for even the best runners out there. And it was kind of disappointing. I wasn't able to execute the run as well as I wanted to, but I survived and was able to finish. And you did, fantastic to stay upright going down that hill. So not hill, the mountain. So we've had a lot of training rides together, and some swims and bike not bikes, but some runs as well. One of the things that I wanted to hit on in terms of your success in the sport of triathlon, because I feel like your consistency, really shines. You definitely show up and I think overcome those challenges, but I think also there's preparation in that. And the fourth discipline of triathlon being nutrition. And I wanted you to maybe hit on that a little bit, and how you execute nutrition for maybe a shorter sprint race versus like a half Ironman distance would be kind of a great place to start if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, sure. nutrition for me wasn't really a factor, like you said, until I started doing the longer distances. And I remember this one specific bike ride that I was doing with Gear Stormick and Elise Gallegos. And it was one of my first rides over 3 hours. And what I've been doing is, about an hour in, I would have a Cliff Bar, and I have a bottle or two of Gatorade on my bike. And we stopped at the first gas station like an hour and a half in, and they went inside and came out with all this nutrition, and they were trading nutrition, and I was just kind of watching what was going on, and it didn't even
Morning.
cross my mind that like, I mean, I was just observing. And then 3 hours
It's a
in,
long ride to go get breakfast, right?
yeah, I
And
mean,
then
I
you
was
got
like,
and then you got to ride home afterwards.
I'm fine. I don't know why you guys eating so much. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm fine. So right around 3 hours, I turned around to go home down Millhopper, and they went down 241 to go home, and I totally bonked. I mean, I just, I mean, I was kind of, yeah, I mean, was just going like 10, 12 or 14 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And
In the small ring.
yeah, yep, basically, yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly what happened.
I
It
know.
was bad because I probably only took like 300. I don't know. I mean, I had Cliff Bars like 300 calories, and then
Yeah.
a couple of Gatorades. I mean, I probably took like 500, 600 calories, and I should have took at least twice that much. So
Yeah.
I talked to them, and Elise is an ICU nurse, and one of the things that she
Mhm.
explained to me, which I think has really been critical for nutrition for me, is that she compared it to being in the intensive care unit and being on a continuous drip of nutrition.
Mhm.
You want your
It's really
body's going to respond to a gradual amount of calories, of hydration. And if you try to do it all at once, or you try to do it in a very complex type of like fashion with like whole foods, you're not going to be able to absorb it optimally. I mean, you'll
yeah.
be able to function, but we're talking about, functioning at our peak performance.
Yeah.
So she would set her watch to like 10-minute intervals, and she would have one shot block every 10 minutes. And that was like part of her
Yeah.
nutritional strategy. So it changed like the whole paradigm for me of like how I thought about eating and drinking,
Yeah.
when cycling.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good general rule of thumb. And I think we're not going to get into specifics because I will make a definitely a point to make that nutrition ultimately will be very individualized depending on your metabolism, the performance, how the performance that you're racing at, I'd say the different levels of energy and outputs that you're putting out for like a high performing athlete maybe versus someone who's just trying to finish their first race. Definitely there's a big difference between racing a sprint and racing longer distances. I would say that the Olympic distances and up. But definitely the half Ironmans is where it really tests your gut and tests your ability to perform for hours on end. I think that 3 hour mark is for any duration of event, whether it's a triathlon, an ultra run, that 3 hour mark is definitely, you get over that, you really have to start fueling properly and playing around with what works best for you. So I appreciate that. That's some great advice for our viewers here. Yeah, so we'll shift gears here, and I wanted to have you share a little bit more about what it looks like to lead a local community triathlon, I guess, triathlon club team, here with Super Cool Bike Shop, and kind of what that means to you, the vision that you had for the team, and what your goals are kind of moving forward.
Yeah, so that I feel really humbled to kind of have been able to put together the super cool racing team. I mean, it's really Martin's team,
Yeah.
and it's always been Martin's team, and I just kind of appeared at some point in the history of Super Cool Bike Shop and was like, hey, we have a triathlon community, can we be part of the team? and that's really how it started. I'd seen the photos, and I'd like on social media and in the shop. There's a photo of Sean Smith, who kind of
Mhm.
inspired me. He was a professional cyclist in our community, who very tragically, lost his life while cycling on the roads of Gainesville.
Mhm.
Um, and so him and other athletes, who were part of Super Cool Racing Team, inspired me to really reach out to Martin and just see, what is there a team? What is the team like? Can triathletes be part of the team? I was looking for some. I was an ambassador for a few different products, but they're just sort of these. They're like bigger products, and they're like nationally known. I wanted to be something that I want to be part of something that was more like grassroots.
Yeah.
And
Your your hometown family, and
yeah,
having that local bike shop. I mean, whether you race for some of these larger club teams, which I'm actually now part of, Plush Global, which kind of has its, I think, benefits when you're traveling to some of these bigger races that you may not have. I may not have a super cool buddy with me, but there's Plush Global I can kind of lean on. But having the super cool team and the super cool bike shop here in town, it's an honor to race for them, but it's also the service that they provide, the attention to detail they provide to our triathletes, and the specific bikes that we ride. um,
yeah. You're right. It's the only shop really that's going to cut your carbon seat post. The service is great, and
right.
Martin he's a racer. He's a motocross racer, and so he understands racing, and he understands kind of the needs of people who race. And yeah, is hands down the best mechanic for I don't know. He's the best mechanic I've ever had, and I kind of been all over
Yeah.
Florida.
He's
So
he's seen it all. I've had a few discussions with him and some of the stories, but he's constantly moving around in the shop and getting things done and knocking bikes out and servicing customers. And yeah, it's a great atmosphere in there. They're definitely. I grew up, not say grew up, but when I came up here to Gainesville as a student, um, it was actually underneath a different ownership and management at Super Cool Bike Shop. I lived like right around the corner. So Super Cool has always kind of been a part of me. So when, Martin took over, it was kind of great to see the direction they were taking, to kind of be a part of the community. I think at that point I was working at Fit to Run, and, we'd show up, and co-sponsor and things like that. So that was, I remember that transition for them it was difficult, but I think it was rewarding in terms of how involved they were in the communities.
when was that? I didn't even know about that.
When was what?
When was that transition?
It was a while ago. I know you kind of got into riding around 2015. It was well before that. It is my understanding. I was I can kind of just running at that time, and I saw them at a few events, and I had known the previous owners, but with Martin kind of stepping in and having a vision for the community and being a part of the community, just growing up here too. Yeah, I thought it was kind of it was really neat. So it was really neat to see them kind of take over and create something really special and sustainable for the community.
Yeah, he sponsors the Tri-Gators,
Mhm.
which I think is, to just try to get young athletes and support young athletes, I think says a lot about a small local business.
Yeah,
And then what was the other? So and then they also sponsor the Super Sprint.
yeah.
And
So
oh, and G3, that's the other one. They
yeah,
recently became the G3 sponsor. So yeah, it's
yeah,
nice to see a local bike shop like giving back to the community.
yeah,
I froze.
yeah. So being a part of the team, has been special to me, since I've kind of been around the community for a while, since my undergrad years, up until now. So I know we have a lot of ambitions as a team, as a club, and to support some of our local sponsors. I know we recently brought on Lloyd Clark Sports, kind of as our all around, nutrition, shoes, swimming. They have a bunch of swimming um, equipment as well that we have access to there, which is, I think, a great, a great sponsorship and partnership to have with everything that they can provide. And that's kind of another local establishment here as well. I know there's several others. Maybe if you want to highlight those, you can
Yeah,
list
there's a
them out
few
real
other.
quick.
Yeah, so there's Alt Red or Surf Phyto Performance. They're the makers of Alt Red, which is sort of the more well-known products made from beets. And then there's a Noon, which is a hydration tablet.
Mhm.
Um, Salt Stick, which is electrolyte capsules, and Honey Stinger, which is just pretty much a solid nutrition sponsor. So yeah, we can offer something to our athletes,
Yeah,
that just want to try new products. And
yeah, and that's kind of
yeah,
nice. It's everyone, doesn't have to necessarily, being part of the team or wanting to be a competitive triathlete, focus on going and getting some of those sponsorships, because it does cost quite a bit of money, but you get access to that at a little bit more of a discount because we use so much of it. Is appreciated. I know you kind of spearhead a lot of that. And, I wanted to thank you for that. So, um, Dina, this has been a fun time just kind of chatting. We could cover so much more about, I think, running a club team, with the Super Cool Bike Shop and everything going on. I wanted to also highlight, the racing team isn't just, triathlons, but I know they have a bunch of other athletes that represent the team as well, with, mountain biking, cycling, road cycling, as well. So, but being a part of it as a triathlete has been, certainly a great experience. And I wanted to thank you for, kind of being the heart and soul of the team. So, hats off to you on that. And so I guess I'll ask you if if you want to leave our viewers with, one or two things to kind of take away from maybe the sport of triathlon or just life in general. I guess hit us up with your final thoughts there.
so I would say 2 points, two things that really kind of, I feel like if I was going to tell someone two things about triathlon that would either make them enjoy it more or do better, I would say one is to really get a group of people that you can train with.
Yeah, that's
Because
great.
sometimes,
I forget the quote where it's like, if train alone you can go fast, but train together you'll go far. I forget who,
yeah, something like that.
along those lines. That kind of has resonated with me recently. I do a lot of training on my own, to be honest, but triathlon is kind of a is kind of a lonesome sport, but I think that community is extremely crucial.
Yeah, the fellowship is crucial, and you see even the pros, they'll, the triathlete pros. It's kind of a lonely world when you're like a pro at essentially three different sports, because
Right.
you see them and they're like running with professional runners, or cycling with professional cyclists, or swimming with professional swimmers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, find a group, because there'll be days when it's really hard to get a workout in. But in this at the same time, I don't think you hear this enough. Train alone sometimes, because when you're at your absolute, darkest moment on the course, it's just going to be you and your mind.
Yeah.
So that's the other piece I would say that I would leave. I would say the second point is that
Yeah.
triathlon is not just a physical sport, it's also a mental sport. it's
Right.
it's what you believe you can achieve and what you know you can achieve. um,
Yeah.
and if you believe in something, that says a lot, but if you know that you can achieve something, that says more. So sometimes, training the minds, you keep we enjoy exercising in a group, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just gotta, battle it out with yourself and know how to do that, in a way that's going to make you perform at your best.
Well, that's fantastic. That's actually a topic I plan to cover. I have some, ideas and want to definitely hit on that kind of sports psychology I think that's a great area to expand on for sure. That's
Kevin Lancer, you should
yeah,
talk to Kevin Lancer.
that's who I
He's
had
the
in mind.
he's the expert. I
I
can't say
haven't
more.
asked him to join the group yet. But I don't know if you can guess real quick, and we'll end this episode. But who is this guy right here?
Wait, hold on, I don't have the camera.
Oh, that's right. That's okay. So behind me is
Oh,
Chase.
this guy with the hat?
Yeah, Chase from Paw Patrol.
That my niece loves Paw Patrol.
Yeah, yeah. I know you have a little one now, and being a dad, is new, kind of new for you. And I have my son. He's turning 4 soon, but this is kind of the office slash his room setup, and appreciate him letting me borrow it. So, anyways, I was kind of putting you on the spot there, but Dina, thank you again for spending time with us, and we really do appreciate what you do with the Super Cool Racing team and in the community. So,
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for being a part of it. I appreciate you too.
all right, thanks, man. Have a
All
great
right,
evening.
take care. Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye.